Hello and welcome to a new episode of Real and Digital. There are so many different brands of airbrush devices on the market, and of course we always like to see what's new, and I found a device here, and it's a 360-degree airbrush device. So I found that quite curious and also very, very funny, because you can use it here as a flow system. You can install a side connection cup and also a suction device. You can simply unscrew it here and then screw on a wide variety of attachments. Here you still have the possibility to reduce the air, to limit the lever. Yes, in the next few minutes we will take a look at what you can do with this 360-degree airbrush device, and whether it fits well in the hand, and whether paint comes out of it somewhere, whether the seals are all correct, what the spray pattern is like. So we used the 360 airbrush device right away, and now it's finally time to start my test. Enjoy! Yes, then let's take a look at the scope of delivery of the Casubaris 360 airbrush device. The first thing you see here is an English language instruction manual in color. Here we explain how to connect the individual components. For example, here is the side connection glass. So this is a glass container with a corresponding connection, and then there's another container. It sits relatively firmly in here, and it is there so that you can convert the device to a suction system. And yes, looks a bit odd here. In the upper area there is such a screw visible. At the bottom there is the air limitation, and at the back you have another color regulation, i.e. a lever limit. And then there's a plug-in nipple or fitting for the hose, and then a cup for the flow system, a pipette, and the tool to remove the nozzle.
Ein Becher fürs Fließsystem, eine Pipette und das Werkzeug, die Düse auszubauen.
Yes, the initial installation definitely leads me to start with the flow system first. The cup can be screwed in excellently, and there's also a lid included. You can already see here, you can turn the front area, but it's not so loose that it has to fly apart somehow. You can use the included plug to connect the hose. However, I prefer to unscrew the plug-in nipple that I already have from me here. This is not included, and then you can also connect the device to a quick coupling. Add a little bit of paint again, then you can see how the lever performs and whether it works at all, whether paint comes out in advance. So here everything is 100% fine, taken right out of the box and works. So now you can see here, so if I rotate the front area, then I can connect the page system here, and I have to say, that works great. I've tried a lot of page systems, but here it's very easy and really good and hard to pull. And you have the advantage that you can also adjust at different angles. So it doesn't really have to hang down here in this number of degrees, and also the unscrewing. That works here without any problems with the glass. So, now I turn the whole front area, so that then the filler neck of the paint is basically down, and then I can just connect the other container at the bottom, screw the whole thing securely, and so you can then also work here with the suction system, fill in colors in advance.
Verschraube das Ganze sicher, und somit kann man dann halt auch hier mit dem Saugsystem arbeiten, Farben vorab einfüllen, und da ja zwei Gläser mitgeliefert werden, kann man also auch hier schon zwei verschiedene Farben halt vorab mischen, und man kann das Ganze halt auch ein bisschen leicht drehen, um dann halt auch relativ bequem halt zu arbeiten.
So, let's take a look at the performance. This means that I have now installed the flow system here again, the cup on top. It's also nice and big, and I can hold the sewer cap at the front to bubble through the colors. So I have now mixed water and acrylic paint together, and now spray here with the airbrush device from thick to thin in loops.
Mit dem Airbrush-Gerät von dick auf dünn in Schleifen. Ja,
will it work in terms of performance?
Funktioniert.
let's take a look at the whole thing again without a needle cap. Then you get a little closer to the painting surface. And as you can see, you get a very fine spray pattern here with the built-in 0.3mm nozzle. So it's a normal spray pattern, which is what you're used to here in this price category. It works perfectly here. The spray points also come out round here, and the lever reacts quite excellently.
Und der Hebel reagiert dabei ganz hervorragend.
So, here you can see the individual small dots. Yes, and let's take a look at the whole thing in the application. So I worked all day long with the airbrush from Casubaris to try out the performance at least for a whole day and on a whole motif.
Die Performance auszuprobieren, das an einem ganzen Motiv.
I'll start here with my sci-fi illustration with the background. This means that I now build up the colors here from back to front. First spray here with a blue shade, then add a magenta, and you can already see here how the colors then combine with each other.
Man sieht hier schon schön, wie sich die Farben dann miteinander verbinden.
And yes, so here I have a smaller illustration, so the flow system comes into play here. The colors can be bubbled through quickly. It can be cleaned very well in between, and you can see here at least once with the normal paint applications. Now here with the transitions and cloudy ratio, that it comes out very fine.
Und wolkigen Verhältnis, dass das halt sehr fein rauskommt.
And now we're going to go a little bit closer to the subject, and I'm shaking up such light clouds and lightning here just to integrate a little bit of a special effect in the upper left corner.
Halt oben links in der Ecke mal so ein bisschen ein Special Effect zu integrieren.
Then you have the advantage that you can of course reduce the air here, i.e. turn the screw completely in, then I can open it up a little bit, and then the air wash device starts to burst. So here you can take part in sand structures, stone structures, you can spit open skin pores if necessary, and of course, as you can see in the picture, you can also blow up distant galaxies and stars without reducing the pressure on the compressor, for example.
Ohne zum Beispiel den Druck am Kompressor zu reduzieren.
Now I'm going to go a little closer and try to apply my cloud formation with trembling lines, and that definitely works very well.
Gezitterten Linien aufzutragen und das funktioniert auf jeden Fall sehr gut sogar.
So you can compare that with any other airbrush device as well, and also the small spray points to indicate the stars.
Und auch die kleinen Sprühpunkte, um halt mal die Sterne anzudeuten.
Work great.
Hervorragend.
Due to the nozzle size, there were hardly any blockages. It's not a problem at all. And now on the left side come the big rocks depicted.
Die großen Felsen dargestellt.
I start with a dabbing technique, then use a cracked edge to separate the individual segments of the rocks, and then I continue with shading and other structures, which are then also applied with the Casubaris 960 airbrush device. A shading at the top, and I'm still missing a few structures. They are dabbed a bit more to make the whole thing a bit effective. Then it's time to move on to the airbrush device. More shades, more structures, and in the lower area, I used this function again to limit the air and sprinkled a bit of sandy structure for the lower area. And here you can already see that I just integrate a little bit of fog on the horizon to make the most of it.
Und hier sieht man schon, dass ich dann halt am Horizont da nochmal so ein bisschen Nebel integriere, um die Kante ein bisschen verschwimmen zu lassen und da halt diesen wolkigen Effekt in den Vordergrund mit reinziehe.
So the motif took a few hours and the Casubaris device did an excellent job here.
Das Casubaris-Gerät hat hier eine hervorragende Arbeit gemacht.
Now the masking can be peeled off, and this is what my first test looks like. So, then I'll turn off the cup and install the side connector.
Becher ab und installiere den Seitenanschluss.
That means I'm going to fill in color for now.
Farbe ein.
So there's enough space here to do a body painting, to work on a big cake, to paint a car hood.
Eine große Torte zu bearbeiten, halt auch mal eine Motorhaube zu bemalen. Da passt also ausreichend Farbe rein.
The device, although it is very elongated, fits very well in the hand. So the distance between the cup and the lever is the longest I've ever had in my hand. And so that's quite extraordinary. But even if you had such an unbalanced feeling in your hand at the beginning, it proved itself after a few hours that it was no problem at all, and you can still reach your goal very well and work with the device.
Und man dementsprechend trotzdem sehr gut zum Ziel kommt und mit dem Gerät arbeiten kann.
I use it here, for example, for correction. Here are transport damage to the canvas, and accordingly, I can now process larger amounts of paint here with the side connection system and then also work with it for a long time without refilling it in the cup again and again.
Damit arbeiten, ohne den Becher immer wieder neu zu befüllen.
So, here too it is interesting. With the 0.3mm nozzle you can work extremely finely to make smaller details, such as here again with the clouds. Up to this point, too, there have been no constipation problems at all. I'm using airbrush acrylic paint here, and now I'm spraying on more highlights and lights and textures in my mountain.
Und sprühe jetzt hier nochmal weitere Highlights und Lichter und Strukturen in meinem Berg auf. Sprühe hier nochmal am Horizont weitere lichte Linien ein, um hier auch nochmal die Linienperformance zu testen.
So you see, you can do everything from fine to large color gradient here with the 0.3mm nozzle, and there is also enough space to take the left hand to the hose for stabilization, for example, in order to then really apply exactly the color to the place.
Dann halt auch wirklich genau die Farbe an die Stelle aufzutragen.
Where it's supposed to go. Here, for example, a little more spray and speckle and a little bit of fog to create even more layers in the motif.
Damit hier noch mehr Ebenen im Motiv entstehen.
I have positioned the lever here with my finger relatively wide, comfortably, and I have a good field of view towards the front, and here again the painting of a 3D print, for example.
Also ein gutes Sichtfeld. Und hier jetzt nochmal die Bemalung, zum Beispiel von einem 3D-Druck.
First of all, a primer with a white.
Mit einem Weiß.
Just try out how the whole thing performs on a figure. Yes, you can see that the device also works perfectly here in the 3D printing sector, and the special thing is that you get all three different ways to supply the paint with one device and can accordingly do a wide variety of applications with one device.
Bekommt, die Farbe zuzuführen und dementsprechend die unterschiedlichsten Anwendungen damit mit einem Gerät erledigen kann.
From the flow system to the side connection to the suction system.
Saugsystem.
Now add a few more layers of white before we continue, and then maybe another color is applied.
Weitergebt und dann nochmal vielleicht eine weitere Farbe mit aufgetragen wird.
So, a little bit of blue on it, and then a few small shades afterwards to see how it works with the details.
Wie funktioniert das mit den Details?
So you can get used to the Casubaris 960 Airbrush Pen very quickly. It works perfectly. For all those who are only looking for a device in the cost-effective segment to use one device for many different applications, you can definitely rely on the Casubaris system.
Der kann sich hier auf das Casubaris-System auf jeden Fall verlassen.
It is available in the American at the Amazon store or also overall at eBay. Yes, I hope you liked the short test. Please leave me a thumbs up there, subscribe to the channel for further tests, and until the next real and digital follow, your Roger Hassler.
Kanal für weitere Tests und bis zur nächsten Real- und Digitalfolge, euer Roger Hassler.